Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the cinema tonight, the home of British cinema, in fact. So it's a really good place to be screening this film, Beetlejuice, which I'm sure you've all been looking forward to. Seriously, Fortitude. The reason I'm here is because Astro Agency, which is the company I work for, got involved when Torsten contacted our founder, Daniel Smith. Now, Daniel's in the space industry, and Torsten said that he was interested in seeing if we had a network of people who'd be keen to promote the film. At this point, we hadn't seen any of the trailers or anything like this. Daniel got involved as one of the assistant producers for the film. And then we were introduced to Torsten at an online event called Spacebar. And when Torsten showed us the trailer for the film, we were absolutely blown away, because it combines everything that we believe in, the sustainability side of space and for the Earth and space itself. And it captures that excitement. It feels very similar. You watch the film and it's very similar to the excitement back in the .com boom when it first started. The only difference is this is not going to crash. It's absolutely, we're at a point now, we've had a number of false starts in the space industry over the decades. I should know, I've been part of enough of the crashes, but we're now at the point where things are really, really getting very exciting. And Torsten's film captures that absolutely fantastically. I could go on all night raving about it because it is so cool. You're going to love it, absolutely love it. But I think the best thing at this point is for me to hand over to our version of Tim Burton and for him to explain more about the film. Torsten, if you'd like to come up.
Thanks, Richard.
Thanks,
Richard. Astro Agency has been phenomenal planning this whole event, so thanks Daniel and Antonio and the rest of the team. And thanks all of you for showing up. This is super, super exciting. A couple weeks ago, we had the big premiere in Washington, D.C., Library of Congress. The congressman was there, the astronauts were there, like super high profile. Renee, where you? Raise your hand. Renee was there with me. Thank you. It was fantastic, and we did the Apple TV launch. But this one is actually more special to me because I know like half of the audience, and I've been working with you guys for 3 years making this film. So again, thank you for coming. So obviously I need to thank the sponsors as well. You see lots of logos here, but specifically I wanted to point out Oxford University, the Side Business School. That's actually where my entrepreneurial journey started as well. 12 years ago or something like that. So I'm really excited to have them on board, and later a founder who also went to the school is joining us on the panel. We'll have someone from the UK Space Agency, someone from the European Space Agency, and that founder later at the panel discussion. Just a quick one after the show. Also, thank you to the popcorn sponsor, which was my credit card. But this is a bribe to get you to tell your friends and to like it on IMDb and on Amazon and all these platforms. I guess what I wanted to say before starting the film is this. Give it a few minutes to get into the film, all right? Every filmmaker has a different style, every director has a different style, and it just takes a while to kind of sit back and relax. We're like in a high energy environment, it's like all so exciting, but just relax, okay? If one joke doesn't land for you, tell me later when we meet for a beer. It's okay, don't worry, I'm gonna land this ship safely. I'm really hopeful that you'll enjoy it. And earlier, the group picture, by the way, that was the entire crew. Everyone was kind of involved in making the film here locally. But obviously, you'll see we shot it over 3 years on 4 continents, 82 interviews or something like that. So it's been a huge effort, but I'm so glad to have you local helpers and people here all in the room. So with that, I'm going to say thank you again, and let's watch the film. Thank you.
So for this panel, obviously, we've got Torsten with us, who I think we're pretty familiar with by now, so no other introductions. We have Dr. Makaya, who is one of our film stars, and he is from the European Space Agency. We've got Ray, who is from the UK Space Agency, and Gaurav from Little Place Labs. So welcome, guys. So let's kick things off with you, Torsten. There are so many themes in this film. So what is your main message and passion in your work?
Yeah, right, because there's like 2,700 different themes in there. And maybe I just want to make one grander point about my work and my passion. It's a techno-optimist kind of worldview, right? Yes, we could say that technology is killing us, social media is making us depressed, and climate change is obviously caused by technology we use and all these kind of things. But I happen to believe that it's also the technology that will create the better world, right? That will create the jobs, that will create the wealth, that will create solutions to all these problems. So that's, I think, my one bullet point answer, rather than going through all these little other things. So the future is bright, never brighter than before. So to all the young people here in the room, I know a couple of students are here, or even high schoolers that start here. So the future is bright.
Thank you for that. Short and sweet, but very impactful indeed. I think, especially after this film, like you said, we can all be a little bit more techno-optimistic. But taking a step back, Ray, this is going to be for you. Why does space even matter for all of us on Earth?
How do we all get here today? Well, I use my phone because I don't know London, and that's hooked up to a GPS signal, coupled with a mapping system, all provided by space services. So that's how I even got to this event. That's a very, very small and simple, probably low value use of space, but our entire financial system depends on space. All the banking transactions are done by precision space timing, thousands of transactions per second. We can only function as a society using space. All our logistics is now space-based. We've been so successful about using space and integrate it into society that it's so seamless, we don't even know, which is why films like this are so important to get the message out about the use of space, and also the fragility of space as well. So that's where I come in my team, to try and make sure that space is sustainable. We're doing a lot of work in the UK Space Agency to make sure space is accessible and usable, because space is there for societal and economic benefits, but not just for now, but for future generations as well.
So you talked about sustainability, and obviously that's a very big, important topic for us. Would you be able to elaborate on that a little bit more? So is there anything that stood out to you in particular in the film, and any particular issues, and what solutions are we working on to fix or enhance that?
So what stood out for me really is the uses of space. We saw lots of examples there. One of my previous projects was the use of space for predicting dengue fever in the ASEAN region and protecting crops in Africa. And we can use those for use in our own country as well. But we're now using space so much, and that really came through for me in that film. It was good to see that the projects we're working on a daily basis in the Space Agency brought to life there for all to see. But what also the film hopefully gave across was the fragility, and looking at the imagery from Leo Labs and others about just how many space debris objects are up there. Over 37,000 trackable objects, and hundreds of thousands, if not millions of smaller objects of debris. An analogy for you, it's like everyone just drops stuff all over the road and saying, well, there's no value in clearing it up. But what about the value of a car accident which is caused by debris? What about the value of somebody slipping on a plastic bottle and having an accident? That costs money. And the impact on society and the satellite infrastructure we have now that debris could have, the Kessler syndrome, if that was worked through to his maximum worst case, could be absolutely catastrophic, losing entire orbits. So we'd lose Earth observation orbit, lose GPS orbit, and also restrict human access to space as well, because it would be equivalent of trying to drive through a minefield blindfolded. So human access to space, the worst case, could be denied. And you saw the visuals there brought out in the film about those objects flying around. That's a daily basis. We did some work with a photographer, and they did a collage of space debris objects over London. Right now, there are hundreds of objects flying over our heads right now. I mean, we didn't really realize until that was really brought home to us visually by collaging observations and satellite telemetry and ground station tracking data to see wherever we are, space debris is a real problem. Not just landing on our heads. Hopefully that is a low risk, but still an incident, still a problem, but also to that infrastructure. So what we're doing at the agency, what we're doing about it, we're telling satellite operators where the debris is. There's no worldwide free service which says where debris is. So we at the UK Space Agency, we provide a satellite service called Monitor Your Satellite. So free service for all satellite operators to say, right, you're heading towards debris, or you're heading towards another satellite, you need to do something, you need to move. And that kind of information, that's something we provide every day. So there's incidences now, every day, what we call conjunctions, where we need to do something to move and save those satellites. We're also investing in companies like Astroscale and ClearSpace 2 to look at what we call active debris removal. So that's a satellite going up into orbit, grabbing hold of another satellite. Very, very difficult to do because satellites are designed, hopefully, not to rendezvous. we try to not fly them together, so we're doing the exact opposite of what we normally do. We want to safely grab 2 UK objects, bring them down, so they're safely burned and disposed of, burn up in re-entry. And then the whole mission is going to be sustainable. So we talked about refueling in the film, about it's crazy that we throw away satellites, and we don't do that for anything else. We don't throw away cars or aircraft when they run out of fuel, but we do with satellites. So the active debris removal mission and the supporting studies and the technology we're investing in alongside that will hopefully lead to a refueling mission, which will prove to operators that this technology works and we should be investing and using the services now.
Thank you for that, Ray. I think one of the key takeaways from that is definitely that space is absolutely everywhere. I'd like to bring my next question to you, Gaurav. So you are, of course, the co-founder of Little Place Labs. Your tagline is to make satellites smarter. So what does that mean? Can you tell us briefly what it is that you do?
No, absolutely. Thank you. And it's been an honor. And I was really fascinated by this documentary, Austin. So really amazing. I learned a lot of new lingo today. I'll probably share with you later. But yes, Little Place Labs was born as a spin-out from the University of Oxford. Just like Austin, we went through the same executive MBA program. And coming from a non-space background, it was a big change for me to come and start a company like Little Place Labs. Little Place Labs was born 3 years back, and we found a problem which we wanted to solve. It was all about how to bring information down quickly and make sure information and alerts, insights, analytics from space are provided to users and for the benefit of various industries in a really timely manner. We understood that it takes hours to get the data down, but instead of computing the data on ground, we said, why not put machine learning on satellites? So since the last 3 years, we have been focusing on building expertise and deploying AI and machine learning on satellites so that on the ground, the users can get information in minutes and hopefully in seconds. This way, we can address some really critical and crucial problems, in things where environmental disasters hit, we cannot wait for hours and days. We need information now. And if we can bring that information quickly and provide it to the customers and users, it can really make a big difference to the way things operate on the ground. And hence, our aim is to bring more intelligence on satellites in every way possible.
Thank you for that. I think from Fortitude, we've seen how much relies on satellites and how critical their role really is, and you're working towards that, and we'd love to explore that later on. How does this address the space sustainability topic that Fortitude and Ray discussed? And what other possible solutions do you see being developed?
No, absolutely. Like you would have seen a lot of capabilities that are being built, and these are really complex problems to solve. These problems can only be solved when we bring the right minds together to bring the right hardware and software and intelligence right on board. Space, although it's few hundred kilometers to few thousand kilometers away from LEO to GEO, it's not necessarily a real-time communication. So if you're trying to manage something in space, you need to have intelligence locally on board. And the way we can do this is to get more intelligence, more computing on the satellites. And the aim here is to address various problems, not just for the ground, but for the space as well. A simple example is rendezvous and docking on satellites and on debris can happen when you have intelligent systems who are trying to interact with another object in space. And there are lots and lots of complex problems. The orbital calculations, they aren't easy. Spotting objects in space is not easy. But these are the problems that need to be solved. And I think there's a whole scope of problems that the new generation and the new set of students coming from academia into this industry can really help solve these set of problems. It's what the industry needs.
Thank you. I think there's definitely a lot waiting for us in the future, and it's definitely going to be an exciting future. Talking of future, Dr. Mikaya, you represent the most futuristic chapter of the film, and we're excited to hear more from you. So ESA has recently launched a metal 3D printer to the ISS and started producing the first set of stainless steel samples ever in microgravity. So what does that mean for the future of in-space manufacturing?
So thanks a lot for having me in the documentary and tonight. So basically with this printer, which you will hear about in the coming few days, we just completed the first printed parts ever manufactured in metallic materials in space. So we have essentially cracked the nut of arguably the most difficult material to process in space. It's very hot. It emits a lot of fumes and so on, which can pose a safety hazard for the crew or for other satellites. So we cracked that nut. We were the first to do it in Europe, so that's something we can all be proud of. And that essentially opens the field for what you can manufacture in space, to start with spare parts, equipment, specific parts for the crew. If we have talked with a colleague, Alexander Gerst, who is a German astronaut from the European Space Agency, who told us that he had to do a specific repair on the ISS, and he just assembled a custom-made tool with duct tape and pipes. If you have a printer in space, in plastics, composites, metals now, you can manufacture whatever you need for whatever situation. It's a bit like the Apollo 13 situation where they had to assemble a specific part to get out from their problem. So in the near future, we can manufacture things for the crew on the ISS, on the moon, on the Lunar Gateway, on transit to Mars, etc. Then the next step is really to use that capability to manufacture satellites themselves, not the whole satellites, but satellite parts. Very large antenna that you cannot fit even in Starship. Very large solar arrays, which will provide more power for your satellite. A very large mirror for bigger telescopes than the James Webb at the moment. So that's really the next step. And then to close the circle on space sustainability, the farther horizon is to recycle space debris and retrieve the materials to do something useful with it. So to turn space debris not from a problem to being a resource. So that's what we have started with this metal printer.
To expand on that, could you tell us how this will affect the space industry in the next 5, 10, 20 years? So what will humanity be able to build over this timeline, and who will be able to build this?
So, to come back to the 3 steps that I put forward, the first step is really for the future space tourists, the future commercial crew space. They have the capability now to manufacture, recycle tools on board during their mission. So all the private space stations we saw in the documentary will actually actively approaching manufacturing companies to develop such capabilities in private space stations. Then the satellite operators, the Viasats of this world, who rely on very large infrastructure, so not so much the constellations, but more on the geo side, will very much be interested in this capability to maintain their satellites. We talked about refueling, but this is the next step. This is really manufacturing new equipments and why not later on leasing platforms where you can bolt in whatever antenna, whatever solar array you need. And then later on, it's further exploration. We are talking about Mars, building infrastructure, sustainable infrastructure on Mars. So really all the fields of new space we have talked about in the documentary will be relevant to manufacturing in space.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Mackay. Really exciting things that we're going to be seeing in the next little while. I think this is the perfect time to delve a little deeper into a very important part of the future of space, which is our future workforce. So what I'd like for us all to explore is, with so many new technologies being developed across the space sector, how can education better prepare graduates for entering this field? So I think I will go to you first for your views, Gaurav.
And Anna, why don't you introduce who you are? Because we see the logo behind you, but some might not be familiar because that fits right here.
I guess. So I am Anna. I am here representing UK SEDS. So that is the UK Students for the Exploration and Development of Space. So we are essentially, very briefly, trying to and working very hard towards bridging that gap between students, the university, and the industry. And there's a lot of initiatives that we are working on to make that happen. And I think after the panel, when we're out there for a few drinks, we will please find me to discuss that. So yeah, Gaurav, if we can come back to you and discuss Little Labs a little bit more as well. So I think since we're talking about the future workforce, you founded Little Place Labs during your executive MBA at Oxford. How has that program played a role in preparing you for your career, especially for the space sector?
No, absolutely. Like I mentioned earlier, I and my co-founder, we come from non-space background. And we always knew we wanted to do something which was close to our heart and where we could find purpose. Purpose, something that will lead us for the next 10, 20 years, the rest of our careers. And we found that purpose here in solving a problem associated with the space industry. It was a little tricky, but I must say that academia and the right set of mentors around made it relatively easy for us to navigate our way. I remember one of our sessions where Anushri from XPRIZE, she visited Oxford. We had a quick chat. And I said, hey, space is cool. We want to do something. Do you think we should build a rocket? And she said, you are too late for it. And we realized that there are so many problems that need to be solved. And there's a lot of companies that will be created, that are being created in the process of solving problems and addressing capabilities that the space needs. Building rockets is cool, no doubts. But I do think that when you realistically see, there is a lot of companies doing that. But how many companies are actually building, let's say, lunar hotels? I'm sure there'll be a need for that one day. So finding the right problem and working towards that, I think, is the starting point. There is a lot of support, guidance, mentorship available here in the UK, both from academia, from the industry, as well as from various organizations, UK Space Agency, Space Applications Catapult. And there are internships available for students who are coming out of the universities, who can get an experience and taste of, hey, what problems need to be solved. So I must say that, go look for these opportunities. If you know what problem to solve, go for it. Build your own startup. If you don't know which problem to solve, work with an organization. And you would come across problems and you will figure out a path forward. But trust me, there are a lot of opportunities, and I think in the next 10 to 20 years, this place or this space is going to grow.
Thank you for that. I think two key takeaways from that for me is the part about mentorship. I think this industry, especially from my experience, you cannot find better mentors in any other industry. How supportive, I think so many people here have been as well for me personally, how if, just showing that you've got an interest in space, even if you're just, a university student first year, you feel like you've got no business talking to these people, they will not make you feel like that at all. And that's been my experience. And that's really why I'm still here, still in the space industry.
Absolutely. And what I learned today was a new term in the documentary. Go and be a Homo Spacian.
Perfect. Thank you for that. I think I'm going to quickly go to you, Ray. So we've heard the impressive stats for the UK space sector. A lot of jobs are being created. So would you be able to tell us really briefly what skills demands do you see from the sector? Are MBAs a part of that equation at all?
So what skills are demanded? All of them, really. You have to think it's not just the people cutting the metal, designing on the CAD systems. It's the whole support ecosystem. Comms, space lawyers, geophysics, geography people, commercial people, finance people. It really is a sector which is crying out for people in all trades, but those people who join the space sector almost universally have a great passion for space, which is great to see and great to work in. And what's more, don't ever feel as well, for those who work in the space sector, or for those who wish to join the space sector, you're pigeonholed as a speciality. I've moved around in the space industry and space sector. My original training was for material science. I no longer work in material science. I do space sustainability, which is sometimes a bit of a leap to see how I got there. But once you're in, you can move around. There's lots of avenues and opportunities to grow into what fits for you.
Thank you. Dr. Makaya, do you have one key takeaway from all of that and from your experience for students here?
Yes, I think to converge on what we said about the skills, don't be afraid to approach space. I'm also a material scientist, and until 10 years ago when I joined the agency, my path was not driving me towards space. Just find what makes you vibrate, and I think sustainability is a very important topic now. How can I solve one of the world's current problems? And be curious about how you could do it from the space sector, and don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. You will find people who take your hand and drive you into this field.
Sorry, can I just add to that? You saw our CEO, Paul Bates, on the documentary there. He's actually hosting tomorrow a video conference with about 20 students, just to speak about the space industry, opportunities, and give a bit of mentorship as well. And that's something all space professionals do. It's one of the most approachable fields I think I've ever worked on. We took some students and young professionals to Tokyo, and they had a great time speaking to old grizzled professionals and young startups as well. Please don't be afraid to ever reach out. You will always be given time. That would be my takeaway.
I can definitely say that's 100% true from my experience. So before we move on to questions from the audience, I've got some very important questions for you, Torsten, if that's okay. So could you please tell us your favourite behind-the-scenes moment in making this film?
I have so many. It's a longer conversation. I'm going to keep it brief. I see many hungry and thirsty faces. But I'm going to say something about my last film and then connecting to what I just heard here. My last film was about blockchain and Bitcoin, and I love that industry. Also controversial and stuff, but nobody grows up wanting to become a crypto billionaire, right? It's just not a thing. But this industry is different because people do grow up with the little astronauts or looking at the stars. I mean, that's the whole section at the end towards the film. So that's what makes it very special.
Thank you for that. And the final very important question that we're all eagerly waiting to hear, I'm pretty sure. What is next for Fortitude?
Yes, thank you. Thanks for
Is it
prompting
the
me.
Mars sequel?
Yeah. So I think there should be a part 2 or maybe a mini-series. So it's stories evolve, right? Some of these companies crash. Some of these founders get very rich, or new problems come up, or disasters strike. So I think I should be doing this every 2 or 3 years. That's kind of my plan. And then, of course, I'm interested in other topics. I'm kind of like a biohacker, super interested in longevity. I'm doing a little project on AI as well. Would love to talk to some of you about AI as well. But yeah, space, I think I'm not going to leave you guys. I think I'm going to be sticking around in space.
We're going to hold you to that, so we better see the sequel soon.
Yes, and by the way, so we are going to announce, so Daniel and I, Daniel, where are you? Here. We're just writing the press release for the Amazon launch. So again, please do check it out there and like it, or there's like some commenting function, IMDb, all these things really help independent filmmakers if you tell a friend or rate it somewhere.
Thank you, Torsten. I think now we can open up for maybe one question. How long do we have? Yes.
Hi there, Tim Robinson, Aerospace Magazine at the Royal Aeronautical Society. Great film, great documentary, great roundup of what's going on in new space. But my question would be, do you think investors have lost a bit of interest in it? Has the shine gone off it? There was a lot of activity in SPACs a couple of years ago. Some of these companies are now seem to be in trouble. You think of Virgin Orbit for one. Is some of the shine kind of gone now? People lost interest, looking for the next SpaceX to get them rich?
Who's going to take that one?
I can probably give it a shot. So we are a pre-seed company. We'll be raising our seed round by early next year. And I must say that SPACs and the process in which the money has been raised in the last few years was not necessarily the best and the common what we have seen across. It's also the cycle that goes through the investment, right? In the 2021, you can see a lot of investment. We have seen absurd valuation on certain companies. But now, actually, it's much more realistic. To be honest, we are so glad that we did not raise money that time. Because if we would have raised seed money that time, we would be having a really, really troubled time right now, for the next round. But I think we have survived long enough bootstrapped and with some cash from various sources. I must say it's a correction that the industry needs, and I see that as a positive thing, to be more realistic about what these opportunities are and how companies in the space industry should be valued.
Yeah, just two points on that as well. That one asteroid mining company is kind of like they're 10 years away from really generating income, and they were flooded with investor interest. So there's this excitement still happening, but I think you're 100% right. Obviously, I mean, the public market stocks have performed terribly. Maybe the one comment here to make is Starlink and SpaceX are private, right, and a few others. So the real sexy companies are not investable, which creates some other problems. And the other thing is, it's not really a free market, so the launch sector, for example, because Germany, with those two rocket companies, it's in the German or the European interest to have a competitor to SpaceX, right? So it's not all rules of the investor ecosystem is the same in this market. There's some geopolitical angles, which I think I've covered there. But yeah, should we wrap up?
Yes, please. So we're all eagerly waiting to continue the conversations in a more chill environment. So I'm going to hand over to you.
Richard, you have a small announcement. I actually don't know where we're going.
I never know where I'm going. In fact, before we do that, I think it's important to thank the cinema, Regent Street Cinema, for allowing us to host this event, and the sponsor as well. Pardon? It's a historic place. Well, absolutely. I mean, it's fantastic. So thank you first to the Regent Street Cinema for letting us host it here. To the sponsor, University of Oxford and Side Business School, and all the partners. And we are planning on meeting up somewhere called Treehouse. I have no idea where it is, so just follow everyone else. I'm sure someone will know where it is. And I believe that, Torsten, you're going to be going as well. Well, which is great, because it means that if anyone wants to talk to Torsten or wants to get a selfie for their Instagram feed or something, then they can do so. And I think you'll all appreciate that this was probably better than Beetlejuice in the end. So thank you all for coming along this evening.